Hey everybody, this is Mickey G. Let me let you in on a secret. I don't think Rodney's a fan of LeBron James. And you'll see why in this edition of Old Fools Talking Old School. But it's all good, like you say, just the fact to be able to be here today and think back on, the good times that you had and all. That's always a blessing. So I mean,
Oh, yeah.
can't as this guy said last week, I was talking to your father time is undefeated.
Yeah, buddy.
So I agree with him. Yeah, as long as if he blesses you with enough time around, he's gonna finally that clock's gonna run out one day.
Sir. Yes, sir. That's like I don't know who I was talking to, but they were talking about LeBron James, and I said, I don't give a damn how much money he's spending on his body. Why you think he's walking off the court now? Hell, he'll just get up. He just do JJ any kind of way. Hell, halftime he'll even go down on defense. He just want to play offense. And I saw him another night. He looked over there and waved his hands up a couple of times. He just started walking towards the bench. I guess I was telling JJ, you need to call timeout or something, because I'm coming off of here. I don't care how much you spend on your body. You can look the part and be a powder puff, man. And they all talking about him and Luka, which both of them are too sorry. But Luka's equally out of shape and can't go no long minutes. They got them substituting for each other. They start out playing together, but then they substitute for one another. And I'm just saying, that's just gonna weigh out, because now LeBron is trying to play defense a little bit more, because he still wants people to say that's his team, and he's wearing himself out. I think Luka's gonna take some years off his staying in the league.
Yeah, I think so too. And you know how it is with anything else, when you're carrying that extra weight around and stuff and trying to get up and down the court. I mean, there was players in the league that was in very good shape,
Yes, indeed.
that running up that time up and down that court, it catches up with you after a while, and they was, everybody was so up in arms in Dallas when they traded him, but everybody was saying that was the reason, he wouldn't commit to get in shape and stuff,
Yes, sir. The only thing he committed to was drinking beer after the game.
Yeah, and I mean, you can go so far with production, but still, you gotta be able to play a little bit of defense every now and then too, and get up and down the court, and so but the only thing about it, AD goes in and first, second game he's out, and I'm like, come on, man, he just seemed like he can't stay on the court either.
He can't. Don't know what it is.
I don't either, Rodney. I don't know what it is. You think back about guys like, Moses and Hakeem and those kind of guys that played, 90% of the games every season. These guys can't stay on the court. These are young guys.
Yep. And they killed me with this high ankle sprain. What's a high ankle sprain? What's the difference between that and a low ankle sprain? Them older brothers used to tape that up and get on out there and
That's
get
right.
it.
Yeah. All they need to go back and look at some of that video of Willis Reed in that championship game. He's playing on one leg.
Yeah, man.
He came out there.
These dudes are soft, man. And the overlying factor is that these damn media people won't fess up and just tell it like it is. This is a young man's game. I don't give a damn how much you can get your body lean and clean and all that. This is a young man's game. A young man has something besides adrenaline in him that makes him flow and go. And them old horses, they ain't got but one gallon.
Yeah.
I don't care how and what you've been. And like they were all trying to make LeBron out like he's doing something outstanding. LeBron is washed up. He ain't never been all that nowhere. Only thing that keeps him in, as far as I'm concerned, is that every time he go down there running over folks, they call a foul on the defense. He gets to get up there and clank them free throws. And after 22 years of playing, he ought to be able to hit some. And everything, like I say, everything he's doing now is, as far as records are concerned, they're longevity
Yeah.
records.
Yeah.
You've been playing this long, you ought to break something.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. You hang
he,
around long enough,
yeah,
you should be able to do that. And I think some of it's the fact that right now, and like I say, I don't follow the NBA nowhere near like I used to, but
on
there
me.
just really aren't a lot of marquee players in the league that you can sort of put on the back of the entire league and they'll carry it for a while.
Mm,
He's one of the few left, him and Steph Curry and a few others. And there's a couple of those young guys that's coming along. But,
mm,
it seems like you got those marquee players that they wanna surround the media with, and they wanna also protect, like you say, probably 50% of the time that you go down court and run over people is a charge, but they don't call that,
exactly.
that they're protecting too. So, I guess if you can get to that status where, the refs are looking out for you and the league know they still filling seats because your name is on the on the roster to come to their hometown, they'll
Hmm.
ride it. They're gonna ride it as far as they can.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. And they done already told them, don't. People are coming to see them. They ain't coming to see them sitting over there on the bench.
Yeah.
You know, and that's been the crux of LeBron James because he couldn't shoot, still can't shoot all that well. If you look at him a little bit now, when you see him, I told my brother-in-law, I said, "Man, I've been looking at that, and you sure right." I said, "LeBron James shoots them line drive bullets up there. Back off him, let him shoot it. He'll clank it every time. But the minute you jump, then he's got to put some arc on it. He may look up and hit one." And that's what happens every game, man. He'll sit out there. He the only dude I know that'll step to one side, shoot a three, and clank it on the other rim on the other side of the damn game. And I'm like, and then they'll come in there and start giving him fouls so he can get them points up. Oh, LeBron. So I know a lot of times when I watch, which I don't really watch it a lot of times. That's a lie. But when I watch him, they'll come up and then at the end they'll say, "Oh, he's got 30 points," and I'm like, "Where? From where? I ain't seen him do nothing, But hell, he never paraded to that free throw line."
Yeah.
So, but yeah, the product that they got for them billionaires, they know how to market and what to market. I mean, I look at it and I might be biased because I'm a Steph Curry fan because he hit them bombs downtown
Oh,
on his
yeah.
own. he,
Oh, yeah.
he ain't getting bailed out on that. and but the league made LeBron. The league that made him, they chose him, and now he's sitting up. They were showing a thing on when I was on Facebook on them little reels on there. He talking about, well, that's when I knew I was the king. I'm like, boy, you are so conceited. You still ain't no damn king. You just like Donald Trump. You're a paper tiger.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and I think, that's always gonna be a debate just from the fact that him and Michael and some others that's held in that Kobe or, never got a chance to really play against each other, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And during the same, in their heyday, I think this
Mm-hmm.
makes for, and I think they're always going to be, they love having those kind of debates. It keeps the conversation alive, to
Mm-hmm.
have those kind of debates. But yeah, I think when you uh, try to compare stats, but also the physical ability and what they were to their teams, I still don't think to me, ain't that close,
No.
what he did for his team and what Michael did for his team. But you're getting more and more of the young people weighing in, and that's what they know. They didn't see Michael Jordan in his heyday. They
Oh yeah.
didn't see Kobe in his heyday. They know these young guys, and really the ones that they keep throwing in everybody's face is um is LeBron.
Yeah. Well, and that's another thing they know because again, that's when we have to realize that we are not in that demographic that they're trying to appeal to.
Right.
We are not in that demographic, and and know and understand that it's almost like they've got their own little script to make it argumentative. It's like LeBron James. He used to be a big adversary of Steph Curry because of course he thought he was the best at everything till Steph and them start busting their ass. But it's almost like they criticize Steph because he came from a stable home. He was a
Mhm.
rich kid. He wasn't no that rags to riches thing that the NBA likes to market. You know, his mom was on welfare. He didn't know his daddy. That whole narrative. That's how they describe damn near the whole NBA. But they don't talk about people like Steph Curry or those ones whose sons are playing in the NBA because it's like Michael Irvin talked about his old silly ass son. Hey, what you know about the street? You grew up in a gated neighborhood. talking about talking about your street cred. You you brought up in a gated neighborhood, and that's the kind of thing it is. So they didn't even want to give Steph his props, but you can't deny that deadly 3-point shooting that he got.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, yeah, that's for sure. You can't do that, and like I said, I think that's why it's gonna always be that debate, and I mean, how are you gonna ever say who's the best at pretty much anything? But,
Exactly.
that keeps the debate going, and I think, somebody like Jalen Hurts, he's a Super Bowl winner, but
Mhm.
you don't hardly hear nothing about it because he doesn't fit that mold of people that can go out and make
Right.
headlines about doing stupid stuff or whatever, saying stupid stuff that you can hang all kind of headlines on every other day. I'm sure there's a lot of people in the media that hated seeing them win the Super Bowl
Oh
because
yeah.
they knew they weren't going to have that from him, which I'm glad because they doubted him from day one, and he put in the work to silence a lot of those doubters too.
Oh yeah.
But
And
he ain't that big talking.
the reason he was doubted too. It's
Oh yeah,
painfully obvious because his whole career, Pat, well, it exceeds that boy up at Buffalo, but you don't hear none of the criticisms that Jalen got from him. He ain't won nothing, but y'all already anointing him to the Hall of Fame pretty much. And it's just messed up, and even when like with these biased ass reporters, these sports reporters are some biased, frustrated ex athletes that hate big time. You look at all the stats this year. Uh, Jackson should have won his third MVP. And you put his stats up against the boy from Buffalo, he ain't even close. How in the hell he gonna get the MVP? It's just y'all done decided, no, we ain't letting this Negro do that. We gonna stop that because we love uh, uh, Allen.
hmm
It's the same story with I just had it on the tip of my tongue there. Oh, like Jokic. They gave him 3 in a row MVPs, but anybody else? I just been looking at it, man. They bias is big time, man. Just like the media in general, even in politics. I mean, their biases all get out.
yeah. Well, I think Josh Allen was probably the most surprised person in the whole
Well, yeah,
whole place when he was named MVP. Yeah, I think he was the most surprised. That just tells you a little something there that he was more surprised than anybody.
yeah, yeah,
So yeah, and like I say, the media has such a hold on things, and it's just to the point to where you can come out and almost say anything you want to say regardless of facts or anything to back it up just to make a headline.
yeah,
I see it all the time. There'll be a big headline out there. And you're like, oh man, what happened with that? You go in and read it and like, oh, that ain't nothing,
yeah,
but it
exactly.
make it seem like it was just the most devastating thing that ever happened. So, it makes a big difference. And if you could get the media, become that media darling, as they say, it's hard to do any wrong, But yeah, that's just the way it is. It's not a good thing, but media has just gotten to the point to where it's just totally totally out of hand, and I don't see anybody reining it in because there's just too many outlets out there now,
Oh,
you
yeah.
know?
And
It's
you
too
can't
many
tell
ways
me
to get out there.
out of all these leagues, even though most of the time more than 50% of the participants are of color, but none of these white dudes get in trouble. You can't tell me that. Nothing. So, I'm like, it's like even in the news, they're establishing a narrative because they even have us thinking this when certain things happen, we think, oh, I hope this brother then, we done already made him out to be a brother, because they got it set up that way.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, that's the way it is, and like you say, unless you just do something that was such publicly obvious, you know, they ain't gonna come after you. But
Mm-mm.
I just think there's some players, and I know there's that thin line between what do you do to stay in the limelight to try to stay relevant
Mm.
versus, yeah, when you get yourself out in the limelight like that, there's always somebody's trying to find some dirt to bring you
Oh
down.
yeah. Oh yeah.
It's always that thin line about how do you do that? Some have chosen to try to, shrink back, and I sort of look at Steph Curry as one of those kind of people.
Oh yeah.
He just goes out there and does his job and sort of leave it at that kind of thing. But there's others that think that they got to be in the limelight. They have their whole life story out there every day for
Hmm.
everybody to look at, criticize, and then when people come down on them and do things like that, they wonder, well, why are you doing that? Why well, you put it all out there, you
That's
know.
it.
So yeah, I know, but I know it's a hard thing to do because that's how you sort of stay relevant. You do something, whether it's good or bad, just sort of stay in the limelight. Yeah.
Well, we don't. Like I always say, we ain't ready for prime time. We don't have the discernment to look at situations and understand that you're bigger than that situation. It ain't for everybody, no. I say that simply because just like with Steph Curry, back when they were in the middle of winning all their championship, because I watched them religious. Hell, I watch them now. But I remember one game they were in trash time and they were sitting over on the bench, and Draymond Green was sitting next to him. Well, he was at a point in the game where the camera shouldn't have been on the bench if they were playing, but the camera was stuck on the bench with them two, and Draymond hit Steph on the leg, and they looked across the court, and Draymond put his fingers up like he was smoking a joint, and and Steph hit him on the leg and frowns. Don't do that, you know. And they hang out big time. I know, hell, Steph smoked more weed than the law allowed, but he got sense enough to keep that his business to himself.
Mhm.
Draymond, one of them, he gonna be out there and then be mad. Well, why you saying that I smoke weed? You done told him, basically, but some people just don't have that sense about them. Everybody, well, a lot of people like to think that just because they do that, they think they cool and want everybody else to think they cool. So, but yeah, I'll never forget that. I'm like, oh, Steph, yeah, because I seen him doing a couple of dances with that fine ass wife of his. I'm like, yeah, they feeling pretty good. They had her backing it up to him one time on one of them celebrations.
So they're able to do those kind of things and still survive. But there's others, like you say, they want it to be out there in the public eye. And when you
Mm,
do that, you are susceptible to all the negatives that come with that and all
yes,
the
sir.
stereotypes that come with that. So you just you sort of make they sort of make their own bed, and as the old saying goes, when you do that, you got to lie in it.
Right, right. Yeah, man. It's a world that hell, even in our world, people in the military, there's some of them out there like everybody else is dumb to the facts, but they do their little innuendo, and you could end your career behind that. They
Hmm.
still do it. I'm like, man, come on.
Yeah, they take them chances. They take them chances, and some of them, as I say, some of them you get away with it. You talk to your partners or your kids about it. Yeah, you wouldn't believe what I did. I did X. I did Y. but sometimes it don't turn out that way. It don't turn out good, and you ain't around to talk about what you did.
Right.
It's just one of them situations. You can do some wild stuff and live to talk about it, but there's a lot of them that does that kind of stuff and don't live to talk about it. And that's the sad part.
That's true. And then I look at these that, you know, to me, it points to your lacking of any kind of discipline. I know a couple of dudes around here, of course, their kids are grown, they get high with their kids. And I had this one brother tell me about how his daughter got him some edibles, and he's like, I ain't never doing that no more. I was like, hell, you shouldn't have been doing it in the first damn place.
Heard
If you want
that.
some damn edibles, go get them yourself. You ain't got to include your child. And what can you tell your kid? You know, you can't. You done lost all your leverage as far as being a respectable person that might have some experience in telling them about something. But you can sit up and smoke weed with them. What you a peer now. That's what these folks do. And I'm like, I hell, I don't smoke weed, but if I did, I damn sure wouldn't be smoking it with my children.
Well, I'm same way. I mean, I don't either, but I wouldn't sitting around. I mean, I ain't drunk really a lot other than wine in a long time, but I was never one to sit around and drink with my kids either.
No.
That kind of stuff. I just felt like that wasn't the right thing to do, if you will.
No,
But
exactly.
but yeah, I mean, there's some people that, there's some that almost like their kids or their partners or their brothers and sisters or their running buddies kind of thing. They want that kind of relationship, and I'm like, well, if that's the relationship you want, that's fine. But what do you do when you do have to discipline or you do have to make a tough decision on them? It's hard to do that, because you've
Mhm.
gone from being mom to, you're my best friend now, but you're gonna tell me that I can't do this, I can't do that. It makes it harder to
Oh
get
yeah.
in those kind of situations. I
And
think
why
you
should why
gotta,
should why should I listen to you?
yeah,
Mm.
yeah, especially if you've been doing the same thing. Now all of a sudden you try and tell me not to do.
Right. Exactly. So yeah, man, I just sit there, to each his own. But
Yeah, I agree. I
to me
agree.
that just you're because that's what you want to do. Then you'll justify anything. Yeah, they grown. Like yeah, they grown, but they still want to come to mom and daddy sometime. You know.
And it's sometimes hard to to sort of wear those both faces. I'm gonna be mom and dad in this situation, but I'm gonna be, your BFF in these situations. Yeah, no, that just to me just causes a lot of unnecessary confusion. I'm your mom, I'm your dad, and I'm gonna treat you like that.
That's right.
That's just how it's gonna be.
That's it.
It's how it's gonna be. If you want something different relationship, you ain't gonna get it here.
Yep.
Go somewhere else because that's just how it's gonna be. Uh, but not, like I say, not every situation or every parent chooses to do that. And like you say, that's their choice.
Right.
I just think a lot of time that comes back to bite you. But that's indeed their choice.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, parents, be careful about that thin line between a parent to your kids and a friend to your kids. Well, we hope you enjoyed this edition. Join us next time for Old Fools Talking Old School. Until then, this is Mickey G. Hey.